From Paul Karason, the blue-skinned man, to Gaurab Garum, the child with a third arm on his back, here are 10 rare humans who really exist. Nicknamed the Blue Man, or Papa Smurf, Paul Karason was a man unlike any other. His particularity? Well, you've certainly already guessed the color of his skin, which was blue. For years, Paul had been taking a medication based on silver nanoparticles to treat dermatitis, a chronic skin condition affecting his face. However, by dint of self-medication, Paul ended up suffering the side effects of this treatment as the color of his skin turned blue. He looked very strange, but our friend didn't seem to mind, as he didn't hesitate to accept interviews on the many TV shows he was invited to appear on. He would talk about his argyrosis, the condition he was suffering from and which had initially led him to live isolated from the rest of the world for some time, before he decided to talk about it in 2008. The man who was affectionately nicknamed Papa Smurf, because of his blue skin and white beard, died in 2013 of a heart attack. He was 62 years old. While some people always complain about their weight and feel the need to diet or train day and night to lose weight, Tom Staniford wants to gain weight instead. This cyclist, who is a member of the English national Paralympic team, suffers from an extremely rare genetic disease due to a unique genetic mutation. As a result, this disease causes a loss of body fat. Born with a normal weight, Tom Staniford has been suffering from MDP syndrome from a young age, a disease that very few people suffer from nowadays. As of December 2014, there have been less than 10 cases worldwide, and Tom Staniford is one of them. The young cyclist may eat very high-calorie meals, but he is sure not to gain weight. Wow! That's what could make many people envy him. However, even though it prevents you from gaining weight, CDM syndrome is a very serious disease because it leads to a high increase in the level of lipids in the blood, but also to bone fragility, hearing loss, and even type 2 diabetes. Diseases that Tom Staniford suffers from nowadays, but which do not prevent him from leading his life as normally as possible. We will now see a case that has long been a great medical mystery. Tom Tennant, a young Australian born in 1993, was not a baby like the others. When he was born, his body was covered with a quantity of skin roughly equivalent to that of a 5-year-old child. He was also so wrinkled that his appearance was a shock to his parents and to the doctors who were seeing such a case for the first time. For, it should be remembered, Tom was the very first child ever to be observed with this problem of excess skin quantity. No one knew the real reason behind this skin problem, and for the doctors, it was, therefore, impossible to prescribe a suitable treatment for the little boy. Nevertheless, they did not give up. On the contrary, they continued their research to solve the mystery of little Tom, who then had to undergo a multitude of tests and analyses for 2.5 months in a medical center. Finally, the doctors were able to discover that the child had an excessively high level of hyaluronic acid. This acid, which is present in the skin, was indeed 100 times higher than normal. On the other hand, the doctors were able to note that there were similarities between the case of little Tom and the Shar-Pei breed of dogs, which presents an excess of skin at birth. This may seem insane to you, but it is indeed the reality. However, since the excess skin in this breed decreases with age, there was a chance that little Tom would get rid of his problem when he grew up. And it was the case. With age, Tom was able to look completely normal. Victoria Wright is a young British woman who suffers from a facial deformity. The young woman suffers from cherubism, a fibro-occlusive genetic disease responsible for the deformation of the mandible, and sometimes also the maxilla. It was at the age of 4 that doctors discovered that Victoria suffered from this disease, which eventually disfigured her face and made her look different from others. More than that, the young woman also suffered from being the target of mockery. Unfortunately, the woman who played the role of April in the British parodic documentary Cast-Offs had to face hurtful comments because of her atypical physique. However, the suffering and hardship she endured did not prevent her from accepting herself as she is and accepting the gaze of others. Today, Victoria Wright is strong, dynamic, confident, and proud of her appearance. And she is also a happy wife who takes life to heart. Before continuing, here is the question of the day. What is the name of the disease that manifests itself by very abundant hair on the body and face? Option A. Albinism. Option B. Hypertrichosis. Option C. Hemophilia. Think carefully, choose the option you think is correct, and stay with us until the end of this video to see if you have answered correctly. And now, let's continue. Frank Lentini. This name may not ring a bell, but you will be surprised to discover its history. Francesco Lentini, an American of Italian origin, was born in May 1889. However, as soon as he was born, he soon found himself in the center of all the attention because of his atypical physique. For, well, the little Sicilian had 3 legs, one of which was sticking out of his right hip. Not only did he have 3 legs, but he also had 4 feet, one of them at the level of the knee of the 3rd leg, 16 toes, and double genitalia. You're probably wondering what could have caused this deformity, right? Well, it goes back to pregnancy. Frank's mother was pregnant with twins, but one of them was actually a parasitic twin. After beginning to develop in the uterus, the twin stuck to the second fetus and could not be separated from it. Frank was born alone with a few members of his parasitic twin, but the atypical physique of the little boy earned him the nickname, the Little Monster, and the opportunity to live far away from his entourage. In 1898, Frank Lentini traveled to the United States with his father to meet Giuseppe Magnano, a circus professional. It was then that a long career in the circus began for little Frank, who would later become a famous man. Despite his great physical particularity, Frank Lentini was able to start a family by getting married and becoming a father of 4 children. Known for his humor and charisma, this man became a true model of inspiration, because, despite his unusual appearance, he knew how to enjoy life without ever complaining and without ever stopping performing. Frank Lentini finally died of a lung infection in 1966. He was 77 years old. Gaurab Garum, a little boy living in Nepal, suffers from a very particular disability. Indeed, the child lives with a 3rd arm that has grown at the level of his back. As the little boy grew, this 3rd arm continued to grow with him, disturbing the child in his sleep. You might think it's an arm like the other 2, but in reality, it is a protrusion of the spine, the result of a disease called spina bifida. This malformation due to a misshapen vertebral arch is believed to affect 1 in 2,000 or more babies worldwide. But a 3rd arm with a hand is something extremely rare, and the question of removing it has put the parents of the little boy in a very big dilemma. For it is a high-risk operation that could lead to permanent paralysis, since the arm is connected to the nerve of the spine. However, it was clear that even without surgery, Gaurab could suffer serious spinal problems for the rest of his life. Far from deformities and handicaps, let's now discover a young person with a stunning physique. Nyakim Gatwek, a model born in Ethiopia but originally from South Sudan, stands out from many other people thanks to his very dark skin color. Due to a very high level of melanin, the skin of this young woman is very dark, so dark that it has earned her the nickname, the Queen of Dark, as she is called. It was a spontaneous photo with another Métis model named Precious Caitlin Grant that opened the doors of fashion and modeling for her a few years ago. Today, the 27-year-old woman has already made the front page of a few major magazines. However, the journey of this young model has been full of pitfalls because of her so particular physique and the comments she has received from others, especially in some countries where we do not know these very dark skin colors. Living in the United States with her family since the age of 14, Nyakim has suffered from discrimination that led her to consider the idea of bleaching her skin. But she finally gave up on the idea after deciding to accept and be accepted and respected by others. Thanks to her very dark skin color, the Queen of Dark made it into the Guinness Book of Records this year for having the darkest complexion in the world. It was 10 rare people who really exist. Do you know other people who have a physical particularity or who suffer from a rare genetic disease, like the people we have just discovered today? Leave us your answer in the comments. And finally, here is the right answer to the question of the day. If you answered option B, you were right.